early June, and we're back in one of our best spots on the Prairie Hollow property. We're in the Big Bottom. You can see the redneck back behind me. Had a great encounter with a nice buck here last fall. It is hot, blistering hot. It's in the 90s today, but we've got a big tropical storm coming through early in the week, a few days from now. So we're trying to finish up planting food plots. Creek's been up. It's been a really wet spring, as a lot of you guys can probably attest to. Creek's just right over that direction, and it's been so high we haven't been able to get the tractor and the drill over here. But today it's over here. Chad's been planting like crazy, but we're doing a little bit of tweaking from last year, the information we gained. So this is all about property or food plot architecture. Before we jump into the layout, please subscribe to the channel to support us. And if you haven't already, go check out our weekly podcast. We do 2 podcasts a week over on iTunes. Check it out, covering everything we'll discuss in this video. So just bear with us as we stand out here in the heat. That's why I'm wearing a cowboy hat, because I'm trying to limit getting any more sunspots in my face and looking older than I really am. Fun thing that we're doing, experimental thing that we're trying to replicate nature and really use a tool that we have here on the farm at our disposal, and that's cattle. So this was the Legacy blend that we planted last fall from Stratton, about 12 different species in this blend, and cereal rye, oats, triticale, a bunch of annual clovers, turnips are all included. But during the early part of the spring and middle of the spring, it really starts taking off, and it could provide great forage for cattle. So we brought the cows in, and they help terminate a lot of our crop here. You can see the manure in front of me, fertilizer, and we haven't used any herbicide on this food plot yet. We will later on in the season. But right now we're drilling right through it, and you can see he's done a pretty good job of knocking all this down. There's a few scragglers, but not a whole lot. So we use the cows. We got more acreage for cattle grazing, which is a huge win for us and our dad and the owners of the cows. But also it helps us with our job of getting that thatch down and providing some more diversity and more disturbance. A lot of birds are chirping around in here, chasing the flies that are on the cow manure. But most importantly, we're replicating nature and adding more diversity. So, redneck behind me, how many times do you guys hunt in a food plot where the deer seem to always be just out of range or way out of range? That's kind of a common occurrence with this food plot. It's about 70 to 80 yards wide, so deer can work the western edge and never come into range. There's not any good trees to really put a stand on this side, plus you're 10, 15 yards further back than where the blind is. So we elected last year to move the redneck blind in and bumped it out a little bit. But instead of walking through the wide open food plot, we're screening ourselves in, but still providing forage for the wildlife during the growing season and later on in the season with the Stratton Heritage blend. So we've got a blend with, I think, 8 different species, anywhere from sun hemp, milo, cowpeas, sunflowers, even some soybeans. But that sun hemp and cowpea combination will grow up 7-8 foot, and the cowpeas will vine all over the sun hemp to where we'll have a really good screen that also provides forage during the summer months. But later on in the summer, it grows so fast, unless you have a really, really high deer density, it'll outgrow the deer browse pressure and provide a great screen for us to sneak through the creek and make that 10 to 15 yard trek through the field into the blind. Now, last year we did that same plan and it worked well. We had deer coming in the food plot. We were screened as we were getting in, but we had one little hiccup. And if you go back to last October, you can watch a video of a really nice buck who came out and he hung out at 70 and 60 and 50 yards for a little bit too long. So this year, instead of just screening this side, we're also going to plant the Heritage Blend on that side of the field. So we're basically still providing forage, but we're shrinking down the short vegetation where we'll have a lot more usable space, or a lot more of a conditioned area for the deer to use, because they won't have to be wading through the tall stuff. They like that path of least resistance. So we're going to have tall Heritage Blend, Ancestry Blend mixed on both sides with standing soybeans and broadcasted greens below the soybeans. So they'll like the inside of the field much more than the outside, so therefore it brings them closer into range. We elected to send the cattle in sometime during May. We were looking at the cereal grains and found that the cereal rye were already starting to put a seed head on. So they were starting to really mature quickly. But there were still clovers coming on really strong that were very palatable and very nutritious to the cattle. So when we sent the cows in mid-May, there was still plenty of forage here, but also there was a good amount of forage or vegetation that wasn't selected by the cattle. So there was more trampling of the cereal rye and triticale. And so we put armor on the soil, as Gabe Brown says. We kept a lot of vegetation available to help cover the soil, but the big, huge winning part of this is our food plot provided highly nutritious forage for the cattle. So now we're working with one operation, the cattle, with our wildlife mindset and bringing those together and using it to benefit both parties. We have more forage available for the cows. We're using the cows to help build soil health and maintain a healthy food plot, add some fertilizer, and diversify the landscape. So we're trying to do things a little bit out of the box and work with the cattle and the wildlife hand in hand here, all still while going with our food plot architecture of bringing deer closer into range. So a lot of moving parts. Hopefully you guys will continue to follow along as we continue to bring more and more videos each week, and you'll see hopefully us in that blind this fall chasing one of our good bucks.